Furniture Redesign by MBM, and I am Mary. Today I'll be working on this old vanity. Now this vanity is probably from the 70s or 80s and is in pretty good condition, but it's very dated. The color is just wrong for today, and I'm making this over for my daughter, and she wants it in white. The drawer's in good condition. There's a few scratches on the top, and of course, it did come with the mirror, and the mirror, these are the brackets for the mirror, but we're not going to use this mirror because the mirror is too small. The top of the desk, as you can see, has some scrapes. And it's a little dirty, but we're going to clean it up. We're going to sand it back and make sure that we do something really, really pretty with it. She wants it done in white, and it also has this little bench. Now, the bench is still covered in plastic. The fabric is good, but I'm not sure if she wants to change that or not. We'll see going forward. So the first thing I have to do is find a mirror for the top of it and go ahead and figure out the paint color. But before we do all of that, let's get started first by cleaning the piece. Now that it's time to clean, I'll be using TSP and warm water. I've already mixed it, warm water and TSP, in a basket. Let me just add my gloves on and we can get started washing down the piece. My washing is done. My furniture piece is clean. Now it's time to rinse. I'm going to also take the cushion off the bench. The piece has been washed, rinsed, and lightly sanded with the 220 grit sandpaper. I have my primer here, and it is the Zinsser Benz 123 primer, and I'm just going to add one coat of the primer to the bench and the vanity. Now I did sand with a 220 grit sandpaper before adding my primer. This is a very important step because you want to make sure that your paint has something to adhere to. It's lunchtime, so I'm going to finish adding my primer and come back in a couple hours for the next step. Lunch is over. It's been about 2 hours. I'm going to take that same 220 grit sanding block and I'm going to go over my vanity. I'm going to go over the bench as well. And I'm doing this to make sure that I don't have any dust or imperfections in my primer. I want to make sure it's smooth as silk before adding my first layer of paint. So I can't figure out how to get the hardware off. So I'm going to have to take a moment to peel back the liner. But until then, let's just wipe the dust off the vanity. And then I'll play with this in between adding my first layer of paint to the vanity. Now that I have my piece wiped down, it's time for paint. I'll be using chalk paint in white linen by Reupholstering. In this jar, I have my Vanity satin top coat. I have very little paint left in my can, so I want to add about half of this top coat in with my paint. I'm doing this because once my paint is dry and I'm ready to add my top coat, I would only need to add about 1 or 2 coats rather than 3 coats. Once I have the two mixed really well, I'm ready to pour it into my foil lined tray. I'm going to continue adding my first coat of paint, and we'll be back for our next step. Okay, my first coat of paint is actually my first coat and a half, because once I did the bottom, I was able to do the top again. So now that that's dry, I want to take my 220 grit sand block once again, and I just want to lightly sand over the top of the paint. This is to make sure that there's no imperfections or any rough spots that's left behind from the first coat of paint, that when I add my second coat, that it will be smooth. Now that I've lightly sanded my piece, I'm going to take a damp cloth once again and wipe away any of the dust left behind. Once I wipe it down, I'm going to flip my table upside down to add my second coat of paint. Go ahead, ask me, why are you turning it upside down? Easy. I turned it upside down because it's light enough and it allowed me to get spots that I could not see underneath. Now I can go ahead, add my second coat of paint, and also get around the bottom of the legs, underneath the table where I couldn't reach when it was right side up. If you're watching, I hope you're enjoying this video. This is the first video for furniture redesign, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and share with your friends and family. You also want to hit the notification bell and give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate all of your support. Okay, I'm back, and I was able to pull away the lining on the inside of the drawer to reach the screws. I unscrewed the screws, which allowed me to take the handle off, and I've already primed my drawer. I also took a trip to the Goodwill while my vanity was drying, and I was able to find this mirror. It was $8.99. And of course, today they were giving away 50% off. I got it for $4.50, then 10% off that. So I paid about $4 for the mirror. And I think it's the perfect size for the vanity. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a coat of primer to the mirror. My primer is dry on my mirror and also my drawer front. So I'm gonna go ahead, before I add my final coat of paint on the desk, is paint those pieces first so that when I'm done with my desk, I can go back and add a second coat to the mirror and the drawer front. So let's get started. So all the pieces to my vanity have 3 coats of paint, and now I'm ready to add my top coat. This is the Vanity satin finish top coat that I have left, and I'm just gonna use this foam brush to brush it, starting on the bench. I'm doing the bench first so that it can be put back together. I will be adding 2 coats of this Vanity top coat to the bench. I want to make sure that everything is covered well and will not chip. Now I won't be adding it to the top of the vanity because I haven't decided just yet what I want to do with the top. Okay, here is the seat to my bench for the vanity. As you see, the pillow has not been used. There's no stains. Really pretty. I would love it like this, but my daughter, of course, she's young. She wants something new. So I'm going to have to cover up this beautiful fabric. And so what I found was a throw that I no longer used in my home. So rather than go out and buy fabric, I cut a piece of this down to size. Now what I tried to do was keep the finished edges so that I can put the pillow on that. And then I'll staple the finished edge to the side. Go around, roll the fabric, and do the same thing on the other side. So you have to go side to side and then side to side. So I'm flipping it over and I'll add my staple here. But before I could do that, the fabric is a little long, so I'm gonna cut away a little bit of that fabric before I make my fold and staple it down. So now that I have the staple on that side, I'm gonna flip the pillow and make the staple on the other two ends. First one end and then the other. Then I'm gonna flip my fabric to the other end and I'm gonna do the same thing. Except I have to fold back my fabric because this is a raw edge. Make my staple in the middle. And now I can begin to staple all four sides. Now it's time to tackle those corners. First thing you want to do is cut away all of the excess material because you don't want it to be bulky. Then you want to fold it in almost like you're wrapping a present. But again, you might have to keep cutting away excess material. Fold it as though you're wrapping a package, add your staples, and you're complete. And this is what it should look like. And now that that corner is complete, I'm going to do it 3 more times and the bench will be ready to go back together. Now it's time to put the bench back together. I'm going to use a screwdriver to screw the seat back to the bench, and then we're going to work on the desktop. Now I'm ready to work on my tabletop. I decided I was going to do an epoxy mix on the top of my table. This comes in part A, part B. I have 2 plastic cups and I'm going to mix 6 ounces of part A, which is the resin, and 6 ounces of part B, which is the hardener. And then you follow the mixing instructions on your epoxy mix. I will leave mine in the description box below. As you can see, my camera froze, but once my resin was mixed, I added 2 ounces in 4 different cups. 2 ounces was clear, 2 ounces had a black metallic paint, 2 ounces had a gray metallic paint, and 2 ounces had a white paint. I first poured my clear resin on, and I spread it across my table using my hands. Then I added the black. I did the same thing. I spread it across the table using my hands. Then I added white to take away some of the black. I used my hands and spread it in as well. Once I got the marble effect, I'm taking my gray paint and I am making veins in the marble top. I take the spoon, I add it to the table, and then I take the spoon and drag it through the resin, and then it will smooth out. Now the resin again is self-leveling, but I take my hair dryer, try to blow out all the bubbles in it, as well as heat up the resin again, and it will help the leveling process. And here's a look at how it turned out. Now all the bubbles have not gone away. It's still in the process of flowing, so we're going to let it sit for about 4 hours. I'll come and check on it, but it'll be tomorrow when I come back and we'll be ready to add the mirror to the table. Now it's time to add the hardware. I chose this hardware because my daughter do like it a lot. I got this particular one from my local Menards, but my others I did get from Amazon, and I'll leave the link below. Now that I have my handle back on, I'll take my Gorilla fabric glue. I'll spray it to the back side of the liner of the drawer and glue it back to the inside. And this is what it should look like. Very, very nice. Now let's get the mirror attached. The first thing I want to do is center my mirror. Then I'll make marks on the back side of the table where the center is. Once I've achieved that, I'm going to take the brackets that I picked up from Menards to hold my mirror to the back side of the table. Then I'll make marks where the hole should be on the mirror as well as on the back side of the table. It's time to change the bit in my drill bit to a drill bit. I'm drilling pilot holes in the back of the table and also the mirror, and this is to keep my wood from splitting when I add my screws. I'm using 3/4 inch screws to hold the mirror to the back of the desk. I quickly realized I need washers to make sure that my screw head wouldn't go through the brackets. I'm switching back to the drill bit so that I could drill those pilot holes in the mirror. I'm being careful not to drill all the way through the front of the wood. I repeat the process on the other side of the vanity top. heading for the finish line. We just need to add the lights. Now it's time to add my lights. I got my lights from Amazon. They do have an adapter, and there is 9 lights. I'm about to adhere them to the mirror. I'm gonna pull it a little closer for you to see. Now they did come with this little double stick tape, and I applied it to the back of the lights. I figured out where I want to put them, and now I'm just lining up the left side with what I did on the right side. They have 3 different settings, and I will leave a link to them in the description box below. Now I'm going to take my masking tape and tape back the excess cords from the lights to the back of the mirror. I'll later use my hot glue gun to hold the wire in place. I'm going to get all of these wires taped back, and I'm going to clean it up and get it ready for the reveal. So I'll see you guys in a bit. And here's a quick look at the before. And here is the after. And this is a modern take on something old. You don't always have to run out and buy something new. Just take something old and make it beautiful again. Even on the stool, why go buy new fabric when you can use something you already have? And the lights are the perfect length to add warmth to the mirror. And it also has 3 or 4 different lighting options. And as I zoom in on the resin top, I did go ahead. I'm a little extra. I went and got my glitter and just added some silver glitter into the resin before it dried. And this is how it turned out. I do hope you all have enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so now and come back to see what I have for you next week. If you have any comments or any ideas on something that I could have did different on this project, let me know. Leave it in the description box below, and I will answer all my comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next video.